Slideshow begini aja ya. Okay, now thank you everyone for the time. To begin the presentation, okay, today we'll be talking about the TPA and our thoughts and what's our approach to help the health industry to focus a little bit more on cost containment, right? It's a very big problem, and we've spent quite a lot of time. And today we want to share a little bit about how we're approaching this problem. First and foremost, before we begin, I'd like to share a little bit about how we think about the role of TPA and how we think about what is Meditab's responsibility in the healthcare industry, right? So and the way we think about it is that we look at us as we look at us as a company and an organization that plays a very important role, right? Because we sit in the intersection of three main groups, right? The first group is, of course, our clients, the insurers and the companies and our brokers. The second group is the providers, and the third one is, of course, members, right? And I think some of the speakers have already covered some part of the responsibility, but I think it's worth for us to kind of go through it a little bit again. For the insurer side, we look at ourselves as we provide the technology, we provide the expertise for them to streamline claims, manage benefits, and also ensure compliance as well. So we do a lot of the groundwork, right? We make sure that the way we set the policies and the technology that we have to create policies that are capable of for us to kind of create more granular settings, for example, on policies, and that will enable our clients to be able to create more interesting policies that provides more benefit, but also suppress costs in areas that you don't have to incur the cost. To insurers and companies and brokers, we also help them with risk management as well. So we do the technology once, we implement the hard things on the technology once, and it will enable our clients to do more advanced data analytics so that they're able to kind of assess the risk better and control costs better. So that's on the first grouping. Now on the second group, we kind of look at ourselves, where we manage the network with all the different providers. We of course need help to negotiate the rates so that we can get more predictable rates as well with all of the different providers. But more importantly, we are also helping with the claims processing as well, right? We provide the technology to make life on provider side easier. So on provider side, the way they could submit the claims and the way they could submit any of the information to us is more streamlined. And we'll process the information and we do a lot of automation at the back to make sure that we process the claims as fast as we can and as accurate as we can, and then ensure timely payments of claims, right? And then of course the last group that we feel a great sense of responsibility is the members, right? And we're taking on a lot of the burden where we assist in claims and benefit inquiries. So we do respond and we do answer a lot of questions directly to members themselves in terms of what are the benefits like, what's the limit and all of that, right? So we handle quite a bit of that. And also we do a lot of claim support too. So particularly in the cases where in inpatient, for example, if somebody is inpatient, we do a lot of case monitoring to ensure that all the care that is necessary, all the care that should be provided is provided, but of course taking into account the provider and the insurer side. Now, of course, the three different groups will have different perspective, right? And sometimes those perspectives clash. So we kind of look at ourselves as an organization that kind of sits in between, and we provide a lot of the technology to make sure that we optimize on all three, but also manage the potential conflicts that arises, right? Now, in order to achieve that, we acknowledge that the industry and the different companies and the different groups have very different level of maturity in technology, right? And in order for us to do some things well, the more technology we implement, of course, implementation of machine learning and AI, it will help us to achieve the goals of cost containment specifically, much more. But at the same time, the different players have different levels of maturity. So the way we kind of handle that is that we don't employ a one-size-fits-all approach where like it's all or nothing, where you have to integrate with us fully, and if you don't, it wouldn't work, right? That will limit a lot of our options, and it will limit the kind of the partners that we partner with. So what we do is that we have a complete suite of API endpoints, and we are continuously adding more and more API endpoints as well, right? So we have a complete suite of API endpoints that allow us and our partners to pick and choose what level of maturity and what level of readiness they are. And at any point in time they're ready on any components, they can then directly integrate with us, and it will just kind of enable quite a bit of automation on that front. Just to kind of bring up a few examples, like for example, with some insurers, we are directly integrating with them through to their app immediately, right? So they could for all of their members, they could use the insurer app, but behind the processing, all of that has already been fully integrated with us, right? Another example is our teledoc partners, right? We are also integrated with them. Some of our telehealth partners are more mature, so we are integrated with them in a much more sophisticated way. Some are partial integration. So again, it's quite flexible. Again, coming to the third one is integration with providers. Again, in Indonesia, that's the amount of providers amount to in the thousands, right? It depends on how what if you only count hospitals, or do you count other clinics as well, right? And if you count all of that, it's in the tens of thousands. So again, of course, if you look at that level of volume, you will have some that are very sophisticated and some that are just beginning. Our flexibility allows for more mature, larger hospital groups, for example, to integrate, and therefore we share data in much more share data specifically for the patients that are with us as well, in a much more seamless way, right? And then depending on the partners that we have, and depending on the requirement of our partners, we will then provide them with certain functionalities if and when that is required. So internally within Meditech, we routinely productize. So we will build a lot of features and products for a specific subset of our users, and as a POC, right? And when the POC runs and it's run without any issue, what we will do is that we will productize that and we will give it to our partners and our clients. So we do that, and we do that very, very routinely. I will share a little bit more about one of the major initiatives that we're working on that is specifically focusing on cost containment in a bit, as an illustration. So I think, and the way we're doing a lot of all of this is that we built a very a pretty flexible, what we call MediXM, right? It's an X middleware that allows us to kind of do all of that. Let me show you one of the implementation that we have actually done, that we have shipped to all providers that is connected to Meditech, to show you just some of the things that we're doing in terms of productizing and allowing our partners to kind of gain the benefit of some of the products that we built. So this is one of the features that we have shipped. We call it MediCheck. And essentially, when you go to providers, for example, if you go to the hospital, and then you give them your insurance card, and then you say, oh, I'm here, I'm looking for a certain treatment. A lot of times on the hospital, they have to check, right? They have to check whether or not, one, you're a real person, two, whether or not your insurance cover what you're coming here for, you still have the limit. And if you are asking for, if there's specific medication that is required or specific procedure that is required, are those things covered as well, right? And historically, a lot of that process takes a long time, right? Which is why sometimes when you go to healthcare providers, you tend to have to wait for confirmation for quite a bit. So if you look behind the scenes, the process to check all of that tends to be quite manual too. So meaning you have to go to a certain database to check whether or not this person is real. Is the policy still active? What kind of limits do you still have? okay, does the policy cover this and this diagnosis? Oh, you're trying to get this medication. Is it covered? Is it relevant to the medication? Is it relevant to the diagnosis? Is the procedure relevant to the diagnosis? So there's quite a bit of levels of checking, and it takes quite a bit of time. And the way we're handling it is that when a question comes in from the hospital, that question is immediately, we apply quite a bit of machine learning and AI behind. That question is immediately routed through our MediChat. And what MediChat does is that it goes through automatically, it goes through all the different places where all this information is pertaining, and comes back with all of the information that is required to answer this question correctly, and then summarize it. As you can see on the right side, right? It will summarize it. It will summarize all of that information that is required in the note, right? For but just a quick note. So it will summarize in the chat, and then what will happen is that on MediCap side, the customer support officer will then take this information and respond. So you get an increase in speed in response, but also a much more accurate reply. So the way we kind of look at it is that we don't want to sacrifice accuracy in the interest of speed, right? But we also understand that to provide a very good customer experience, we need to drastically improve the speed side. So that's one of the products that we originally POC in-house for the usage of internal team members, and once that has matured, we shifted all of that to all of our providers, and as a result, of course, the speed and accuracy increase. So that's one example of how we look at ourselves, and we look at our responsibility in the industry to provide all these added functionalities. Now, coming to other productization that we are focusing on, right? One of the things that we are focusing on quite a bit is to how can we improve the cost containment efforts that are being done, right? And I think before we kind of get to that, let's take a step back, right? Let's take a step back to understand the state of data in the healthcare industry. And when we think of data, the healthcare industry has one of the most amount of data that is available. And if we just look at just sheer volume of, in terms of how many gigabytes or how many terabytes of data we store, it's massive. Every day, the amount of data that comes into the company, and it's being transferred between us and our partner is massive. But of course, the first thinking is that if you have so much data, then we should be able to do a lot. We should be able to process the information. We should be able to kind of come up with all the fraud indicator. We should be able to figure out, who are the, good players in the industry, who are not a good players, who are the good members and who are not, right? That's the expectation, right? And the reason is because when we think about data, in a structured way, right? Like if you look at the, this is just a kind of example data that I'm showing, that's your expectation of data, right? Everything is structured. All the amounts, the names, the IDs are all in the respective places, and therefore, we just need to apply statistical analysis, maybe some machine learning on top of that for us to figure out, what's the problem and what's not, what's fraudulent and what's not. That's the expectation. But unfortunately, in reality, when data is being exchanged and transferred from provider to us or us to somebody else, they oftentimes look like this, right? So what does that mean? It will be for example, somebody will go to the hospital, and they would get full treatment, and and then they were done, and they will come back, and the data that we will get from providers are scanned PDF documents, and it will be scanned PDF documents that of varying qualities, and they're not computer generated PDF documents. They are scanned PDF documents. And a lot of times, some of the PDF documents will be, slanted, meaning some will have quality that is really, really poor, that even a human trying to read it will have issues, right? So again, when all this data is being transferred, these are not machine readable. So we're not immediately able to kind of say, oh, take that information and immediately start processing that information and kind of come up with insights, right? So the state of data in the healthcare industry is still very poor. Now, so even if we apply some we do some more advanced machine learning things, we apply OCR on top of that, and then we do entity extraction. Even if we go through, we put in a lot of computation to process that scanned PDF documents and maybe convert that into a more computer readable format, you will still get data that is not standardized, like as what you can see on the right side, right? So for this, ushering, these are just some example, a short list of how it's being recorded in just a few places, and the list goes on and on. To give you an example, we run a POC and we were processing 11,000 claims, right? That is in scanned PDF documents, and we were just extracting a lot of the information. And just from 11,000 claims document that we have extracted, it resulted in 10 million rows of data, right? That of course we then have to clean, and we need to do all of that. So what I'm trying to say is that in terms of the maturity and the state of data in the healthcare industry is still quite far away. But having said that, it doesn't mean that is the end of the road. There is quite a bit of things that we can do to kickstart, to force this to improve, right? And I'll be sharing that in the next couple of slides. Now, the way we
Thomas,
approach. Oh, so what?
Ya, waktunya tinggal sedikit, Pak.
Okay. All right. I'll quickly go through it. Yeah. So we go through it in 3 different levels, right? The first level is like this is more using human intelligence, right? We have built up quite a bit of knowledge in terms of how to identify fake documents versus real documents. So we have a team of doctors that are very good at recognizing all of this, and therefore we will go through the first layer, right, which is more on the human side. Now on the second layer, we have built up anomaly analyzer using statistical methods, where whatever information and whatever data that is already structured and is computer readable, we will. Okay, again, these are the information, like for example, the class of the hospital, the class of the provider, the ICD codings, the price, the volume, the location, and all of that. So we have a lot of parameters, and with all of these parameters, we are comparing them against each other, and for it to surface anomalies. Then the anomaly itself will help our fraud investigator in-house to then isolate down from the hundreds of thousands of claims to just the claims that are suspicious, and from that suspicious claims, then we come in and we will do a deeper dive in analysis. Now we are on the third phase now, right? And what is the third phase? The third phase is for us to, from the back unstructured data that you see just now, we are applying sophisticated machine learning and AI on those documents, extracting those information, and then extracting those information first, then after that, structuring those information so that it becomes machine readable and in a very structured way. And then from there, we apply again statistical analysis on top of that, so that we are then able to answer very specific questions. What are the questions that we are aiming to answer? For example, answer excessive length of stay question, procedures that is unnecessary, right? Like there are some places where whatever ailment that you have, you come in, I give you the same procedures, right? We want to isolate, and we want to make sure we catch that. Unnecessary medication, prices that are completely out of the range, prices that are just potentially above the buku tarif, procedures that are again priced completely out of the ordinary, and many more. And the final outcome that we are aiming for is that we want to be able to say, okay, over the past 1 week, we have this much amount of claim valued at X rupiah. And out of this X rupiah, we have identified that Y rupiah is problematic with a very high certainty, and here's why they're problematic. And we have we've gotten to a point where we have a POC that we will ship to some of our clients in the coming weeks. So that's our approach in terms of cost containment. And the way we're looking at it is that when we build a lot of our solutions, we build it so that it's able to kind of connect to, it's able to connect in a very general way. So we're not building it specifically just for one client. We're building it, of course, POC with one client, but that solution is then, if, we can generalize it to a lot of different use cases out there. So, all right. So I hope this has been helpful in terms of our approach for cost containment. If any one of you guys would like to kind of get engaged with us to kind of run a POC with us, feel free to kind of reach out to us to work on that. Right. Thank you.
Terima kasih Pak Thomas De Jong. Jadi tadi yang disampaikan Pak Thomas De Jong menggarisbawahi bahwa inilah fungsi teknologi, termasuk dengan kerjasama dengan TPA, third-party administrator, yang bisa membuat kondisinya akan lebih baik lagi. Jadi tantangan ke depan adalah bagaimana mengintegrasikan seluruh data-data ini yang tadi juga dibahas di sesi pertama. Pak Prof. Gufron masih gabung dengan kita kah? Jadi Bapak Ibu mohon izin, meskipun sudah melewati waktu, ada 2 pertanyaan yang ingin saya.
Ya, masih.
Ya. Prof, mohon izin Prof, ini ada pertanyaan dari peserta webinar kita nih Prof. Apakah rumah sakit boleh tidak bekerja sama dengan BPJS Kesehatan Prof? Atau boleh parsial, misalnya hanya kanker saja? Gimana Prof?
Iya, ya boleh. Jadi boleh rumah sakit swasta boleh tidak kerjasama dengan BPJS ya. Cuma untuk diketahui aja, sekarang ini hampir seluruhnya ya. Dan dulu ogah-ogahan, sekarang antri Pak kerjasama BPJS.
Minta ya Prof?
Ya. Dan yang kedua, kalau mau tidak semua ya itu bisa aja. Karena setiap dia nanti mengembangkan pelayanan baru, Center of Excellence, katakanlah untuk nuklir, terapi cancer berbasis pada radiologi atau radioterapi, itu ada izin baru lagi gitu, kerjasama baru lagi untuk itu gitu.
Ya. Oke, makasih Prof. Ke Pak Dr. Yayan, ini ada pertanyaan dari Rifan Dwi Agnitama nih, Dok. Jadi permasalahan asuransi antara lain kan over utilisasi, perbedaan harga, tarif dan layanan. Tadi kan kita paparan dari Dr. Yayan tadi kan sebenarnya menunjukkan bahwa akan ada semacam standar gitu ya, Dok. Nah, khusus untuk over utilisasi, perbedaan harga obat dan tarif layanan, apakah diatur secara khusus atau termasuk dalam standar layanan tadi, Dok?
Ya, izin menjawab. Jadi memang di saat standar itu dibuat, tentu seluruhnya mengacu. Di saat tadi ujungnya adalah unit cost yang dibutuhkan terkait dengan pelayanan yang diberikan, tentu ada hitungan-hitungan tadi, contohnya di dalam misalnya cerita pathway yang dibuat di satu masa penyakit, misalnya taruhlah DHF misalnya, dengue ya, kalau bahasanya untuk demam berdarah gitu ya. Itu apa saja yang dipenuhi dalam satu perawatan, misalnya siapa saja yang terlibat, mana habis pakai apa saja, dan dihitung itu rata-rata dalam 1 tahun misalnya, hitungan pembiayaannya itu nanti dilihat siapa yang mengerjakan di luar ketentuan, itu akan ketahuan karena itu menjadi indikator kinerja dari si masing-masing PPA tadi. Demikian jawaban dari saya.
Oke, terima kasih Dok. Jadi sebenarnya apa yang disampaikan ketiga pembicara kita tadi, Dr. Yayan, Prof. Gufron maupun Thomas De Jong, ini merupakan